Here we go. Rocking and rolling. We are now public. We are now live. My man, this is your host, Nico Sozio. We're back with another live edition of Struggling with Sozio. This is episode 41. I already forget what I named it. Oh, I'm sober and at peace because I have back today from episode 33, back in July 22nd, last time we spoke, Mr. Derek Thorne, a.k.a. Dany Only. He's back. How you doing, brother?
Man,
You
I
look,
am
you look really
awesome.
good. You look fantastic,
Thank
dude.
you.
Last time we spoke, I could
Thanks.
barely see you, man. Like, you had a hat on, big, thick glasses, big old bushy beard. Like, it looked like you were hiding from yourself, you know what I mean? And now you posted a few pictures the other day, and I was like, oh, shit. Like, I had to do a double take, you know what I mean? You look great, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's definitely something that a lot of people have noticed over the past 6 weeks. I've gone through a lot of change, and just talking to people on the phone, and people seeing me. I've lost about 20 pounds, and I don't really hate looking at myself anymore. So I don't
Fantastic,
mind.
man.
Yeah, man, it's
That's
a
really
really good
huge.
feeling, dude.
That's really huge, man. And just to recap, for folks joining us right now and folks that will be listening, we spoke back in July, and you had mentioned that we had just talked about some of your troubles drinking over the years, where you go through a stretch where you're sober for a while, and then you mess it up, and then it kind of gets off the rails. I don't think there was too much other substance abuse in that you were dealing with, but it was mainly an alcohol issue. And you were saying that you were working on getting into a 6-week program through through the church that you work with, or through your pastor or whatever it was, and then about 7 weeks ago, you messaged me. I got in, man. I'm about to start, and I was obviously super happy. And thanks for reaching back out to touch base and let us all know how you're doing now, man.
Yeah. So yeah, what had actually happened is there was I think it was Fresh Winds was the first place that I was going to try to get into.
Fresh winds.
But they had like a 2 week wait for COVID and all that stuff, and it ended up my wife, one of the clients at the shop she works at, had come in, and unfortunately, her this woman's daughter had committed suicide or overdosed. I can't remember exactly. But she had been dealing with substance abuse for a very long time, and she had been in and out of all these various programs. And they said, check out this place called Penfield Addiction Ministries. So we called and talked to the guy, and the first person we talked to was this guy named William Puckett. Everybody just calls him Puck. And from the rip, he was great, genuine guy. We talked, and he said, look, I've been in and out of probably 4 different programs, and this is by far the best one. And then I was talking to Gary, another guy here that works in admissions, and just talking about things and telling him what was up, and it was just a real calming, comfortable feeling. And I came to Penfield on August 3rd, and very quickly, just kind of got the lay of the land. Met everybody here, and then I would say the majority of the people here are for one of 3 things: either alcohol, methamphetamine, or heroin.
I got you. The big 3.
Those couple guys that were here for coke. Yeah, exactly. A couple guys that were for crack and cocaine, and what I realized and what I kind of discovered is I wasn't really ever chemically addicted to anything. I was just addicted to self-destructive behavior.
I got you. That makes
I
sense.
had gone through, like as a teenager and a younger. What's that?
I said that kind of makes sense. I mean, sometimes it's just the rush of whatever you're doing, knowing that it's taboo or maybe illegal or whatever. Sometimes criminals, it's not even necessarily they're stealing out of necessity, but it's a crime of passion or something. You know what I mean? It's just an addiction in that way.
Yeah, and that's what was weird, is because I hear these people and we're telling these stories, and a period of time as a teenager where like I did heroin for 2 weeks straight.
Right.
And then after 2 weeks, I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
So there was no physical addiction. And then, same thing with meth. I did as a teenager, I was messing around with methamphetamine for 2-3 months straight, and then when I stopped, I just stopped. I didn't get dope sick. I didn't have that. I
That's
felt like
strange.
kind of blue and a little emotional after.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
it was really strange. And it was the same thing with alcohol. You know, I would drink and I would hit these dry patches, and I wouldn't get DTs or shakes or anything. I would just be kind of blue for a day or so,
Right, right, right.
and then I
Just
would
bummed out.
right, and I would go for long periods of time, up to 8, 8, 9 months without touching a drink, and then I would just dive back into it. And one thing that I realized here is that abstinence does not equal sobriety
That's interesting.
because you
That's an interesting way to put that. So you're abstaining alone is not considered, or it doesn't necessarily amount to sobriety, is what you're saying.
exactly because addiction, and here's the weird thing about it: addiction is it's a disease, but a disease of choice. But what happens is when you get into the addiction phase, your neurotransmitters in your brain, dopamine, serotonin, PIP, epinephrine, all of this stuff
Right.
is when you first do that drug, your brain releases it at such an exorbitant rate, and you start getting this slow decline where it gets to the point where and I'm sure you've heard of this.
Sure.
People aren't even getting high anymore; they're just maintaining.
Yeah, of course. And we kind of talked about that a little bit last time. Like along one of the things that came to mind as you were speaking was how you go through a period of sobriety, and then you and I mentioned how you fuck it up because you celebrate your sobriety by getting fucked up. You know what I mean? You're like, oh,
Yeah,
I've been sober. I'm gonna get fucked up or whatever. So you blow it.
exactly.
But no, but that totally makes sense as far as like all the dopamine. And I was just having this conversation with my girlfriend because, I mean, as you last time we spoke, you were not doing so well, and I was doing great. I wasn't drinking or smoking anything. Now you're sober, and I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, and I fell back into my pot ways a little bit. And
Yeah,
for the last week or so, or we'll say about the last 5 days, I've been trying to just wean off, and it's just been really physically miserable in conjunction with my like panic and anxiety problems that I've been having since June. So like
yeah,
we've kind of flip flopped a little bit, but I'm confident that I'm just I'm getting out of it again, and I'm getting away from it because it's just I'm learning that I don't think I can do anything a little bit, man. I don't think I can really.
yeah.
I don't think I'm somebody that can do anything a little bit. It starts with, okay, I did it today. I'm not going to do it the next couple days, but then it just becomes every day again. So it is what it is. But back to the point. Right now, I'm struggling with feeling normal because my natural dopamine firers and receptors aren't working. They're like, where's the drugs, dude? Like, where's the, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like my levels of things are all fucking out of whack because I pulled the plug on the juice. You know what I mean? So no, that all makes perfect sense, man.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, it was really cool to just get this education on all the things. And addiction in itself it's a symptom of another disease or another illness or another issue.
Yep.
The way they relate it kind of is like, somebody has pneumonia and they're coughing. You can take stuff to fix the cough, but you still have to fix the pneumonia. And as elementary as that sounds, my issue was like just deep seated issues of self worth and hatred and lack of self worth. And they talk all these things about the four false beliefs. And obviously, this is a Christian based program.
Right.
So it's they're like the person that God made you to be is different from the person you think you are when you get into addiction. So there was a lot of education on that, and it was I got baptized on August 13th, and I've
And was
I've
that
always
your
been
first time? Was that your first time, or had you been as a younger man, as like a child as well?
uh that was my first
Okay.
time of my own volition because
Okay.
I was raised in the Catholic Church. So as a baby, they took me and drip the water on my head, but I
Right.
wasn't cognizant of that.
Sure. Sure.
But
Sure.
this was absolutely my own decision because I've always, the Catholic Church really soured me on religion in general, and I've maintained this stance for a while. I still hold it to this day. Fuck religion. Religion sucks. And what I've learned here, and it's something that I've always kind of grasped. I've always believed in God. I've always believed that there was a God, and an omnipotent being of something, because I just didn't like the idea that we're all just randomly here.
Right.
Um,
Same.
and I know people, yeah, and I know people explain it away with science, and that's cool and that's great, you know. But and I've always believed in Jesus Christ because, you know, it's historically documented. I mean, the dude is in the Torah, the dude is in the Quran, the dude
Sure.
is in the Bible. That there was a man named Jesus Christ who walked the earth and, you know, did good things.
Right.
I mean, our date, we know it's September of 2020 because it's AD after his,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So I I've always had this, you know, this belief, but I was always struggling with it. And like when things went bad, I would blame God and all this. One thing that really opened my eyes and my heart here is the fact that biblical Christianity is the only doctrine that is about what God can do for you and what God does for you. Every other religion, doctrine, or dogma is what you need to do for God. It's big for praise.
Right. Yeah, you know, I never really realized that,
And
you know.
yeah. I mean, and even you know, Mormonism, Episcopalian, Methodist, Buddhist, Muslim, Jew, everything is you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this in order to be okay with God. The really weird thing about what I've learned here is there's only two things you got to do: is love and accept. That's it. And then people are like, well, okay, so you're telling me that if I love and accept Jesus Christ, then I can just go rape and murder and kill people and I'll go to heaven? I'm like, well, technically, yeah, you could. But if you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't want to do those things.
Right.
So it's like if you have a relationship with a woman, you know, if you're a good person, you don't want to go, you know, behind their back and cheat on them. If you really care for them, you don't want to treat them bad. You don't want to beat them and abuse them.
Sure.
So, you know, I've found and have a relationship with Jesus, so I don't want to do the things that he frowns upon.
Sure.
But I'm still human. I'm
Right.
still gonna sin.
Right.
Everybody on this planet is a sinner from birth till death. We're gonna sin.
Yep.
So, you know, like, stop trying to be so perfect. And you know, you're the first person pretty much out of this my core loop that I've talked to about this. And I know, especially being in wrestling, because I plan on going back to the ring when I get out of here in January.
Awesome.
I can't wait to hear, oh, fucking Dany went to rehab and found Jesus. You know, you really believe in that crap? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
well, let me stop you right there, man, because like, I mean, hopefully you're not sincerely worried about that. You know what I mean? Hopefully
not
you're
at
not
all.
worried about a single person giving you shit, because like, don't,
Nope.
dude, don't. Fuck that. If anybody's gonna make fun of you or even talk any kind of smack of it, you know, that means they got bigger issues than you ever could. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
yeah, definitely, yeah, dude, do your thing, come back, and don't even worry about that. Just be the best you can be, and fucking. The only thing you need to worry about is bell to bell, and you know that.
Yeah, that's it, man. And the way with it too is like, when I get out of here, you know, I'm not gonna judge. It's not my place to judge anybody.
You don't have
It's
time,
not my
man.
place.
Ain't time for
Right.
that.
It's not my place to be like, oh, you know, Jesus is frowning on you for that. No, everybody has their own things to work on. So, and that's what religion is, the most detrimental thing to a relationship with God, because it pushes so many people away. It pushed me away.
Sure.
You know, I know so many people that religion has pushed them away because these human beings act like the dictators of God. And they're like, nope, you know, God says, I was like, shut your mouth. Two
Right.
things. All you got to do, love and accept them. That's it.
Right.
And if you love and accept them, you want to lead a better life. And I still hold this. I don't know if I'm right. I have faith, but I don't know. Like, I know I'm talking to Sozio on a cell phone that's
Sure.
going through the towers and all that stuff. I know that. I can see it.
Sure.
You know, and they say faith is believing in the unseen, and that's cool. But somebody, you know, one of the guys here that leads the sermons, you know, he made this analogy. He goes, if you see a guy walking back and forth on a tightrope pushing a wheelbarrow, you see him do it 100 times. You believe that he can do it 101st time.
Right.
But faith is getting in that wheelbarrow.
Right. And then
I was like, yeah, you got a point, but you can get in that wheelbarrow and he can still fall.
Sure.
And he
sure,
was like,
sure.
shut up. You know, he got pissed off. And
He's
told
like,
me to
all
shut
right,
up, but
all right. He's like, all right. It wasn't the most clear cut analogy, but it was good. No, that makes sense, and I'm sure if given enough time or a moment, I could probably come up with another example. But I know what you mean. Like you can have all the statistical, empirical evidence to believe that something is going to
Right.
happen the way that it will, but if the circumstances are extreme, such as walking a tightrope with a wheelbarrow full of bricks, you are having
Yep.
faith that that motherfucker's going to make it the 101th time. So
Exactly.
I totally understand that. It's not the greatest
And
example, but it's a good example.
yeah, and what I've always held on to, and I still do, because me and my mom was saved 15 years ago, and we would get in these discussions all the time, and I would tell her, I was like, Mom, you don't know if God is real. And she'd be like, Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
No, you have faith, but you don't know. But here's the thing. If I'm wrong, and the day I die, I go in the dirt, and that's it. Okay, I lived my life from this point on as a good person. I had love and compassion for my brothers and sisters in the world. And at most importantly, I'm at peace. So if I live that life and I die, so what?
Yeah, man.
Now, if I am right, then I die and go to heaven. So it's a win-win. It's like
Yeah,
there's no
right.
loss for me.
Right. I cannot see the downside with being a good person, having faith, and believing in something that is hopefully legit. Like
Yeah,
what's the downside? Like you said, as long as that's not ever going to lead you to do bad things, who cares? And you know, I don't have it figured out either. I tend to consider myself a bit of an agnostic. I believe that something is going on because this is
man.
all way too significant and designed. Like there is an architecture to our life, to nature, to our bodies, to everything that we do, and it's all the same throughout. So somebody designed that. That's not an accident.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I've often said that I was raised Catholic as well. I kind of have abandoned Catholicism, but not necessarily Christianity. And um, I kind of just think it's one of those things where I don't think the answer to it all is something that we are able to understand. Like
no, I don't think so.
understanding that you and me, we are limited. We are so limited by our eyes, by our bodies, our brain power. Like
Hmm.
we don't have the equipment to measure the types of things that we want to measure. We don't have a ruler for God. There is no such thing. Even some of the figures we throw around when we're studying space, like how the hell does anyone even fathom what a light year is? How far away that is. So
Yeah,
I just tend to think that there's a very good probability that when the lights go out for all of us, we're all in for a gigantic surprise.
yeah,
And I sincerely do hope that there's something and not nothing. But I have stood firm, and I've said this on the podcast before. Maybe we said it last time we spoke. Whether there is something afterwards or nothing, who cares? Because if there's something, fantastic, and hopefully it's
uh
great. And if there's nothing, you won't know any better. Fuck it,
yeah.
dude.
You'll be
And
oblivious. Yeah,
you will be in that eternal peace that we talk about, and eternal
yeah.
rest and peace.
And that's the thing, man. Like I'm 41 years old, and I have never felt the peace that I felt in the 6 weeks that I've been here.
That's awesome,
Never.
man.
And whether it is the Holy Spirit or whether it's just a chemical and physiological effect in my brain based on the environment and the people here, I don't care, and it's not up to me to investigate further to try to find holes in it and whatever it is. I feel good. I'm happy. I have peace, dude, and I've never had this peace. Even the day that my son was born, I remember looking at him and feeding him his little first meal and thinking, wow, this is a new life. But there was still all these things inside of me that was just poison,
Right.
and they're gone, dude. And it's crazy that you never would think that you would find a better group of people than a whole shitload of sober addicts.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is that you guys are all after the same thing. You all realize that you're in a bad space, physically or mentally or both, and that
Hmm.
whether some of you have hit rock bottom or not, you know that this is not necessarily your last chance, but it's a chance. It's a legitimate chance that hasn't necessarily been extended before, or an opportunity that hasn't been there before. And now you guys are surrounded by each other. I imagine there's some level of security to make sure that nobody sneaking things in and out and whatnot. But
Yeah, so we're pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. We're in a town called Union Point, Georgia, which is
okay,
near Greensboro, and like the nearest store is 8 miles away.
gotcha.
Um, so we're pretty much out here, and like whenever a new intake comes in, all their bags are searched, and they go through everything, make sure they're not smuggling anything in, and you're not allowed any phone calls or visitation for the first 2 weeks you're here.
That makes sense.
Um, After that, you can get phone calls, and we get one 15-minute phone call a day. Get gigged out, which is, you get gigs are kind of like demerits. So if you don't clean your room right, or if you don't follow the rules, then you get gigs. And if you get a certain amount of gigs, then the first
Not
thing is
not
the
li-
calls
not
get
not
limited to
not
10
these
minutes.
ones. Not these ones.
No,
Not
not
these.
the gigs,
Not
no,
these ones.
not the gimmicks.
No, I got you.
But yeah, so the first thing is the phone gets cut to 10 minutes, and then once you hit 13 gigs, no phone, no TV.
I got you.
And when I got here, I think this out here we got 27 gigs in one day,
I got you.
and since then the highest we've had was yesterday. The guys at 17, but like after that one day of 27, we only got gigged out once. So gigged out is when you get 13 or more, so you can't use a phone or TV or anything. But
Sure.
like we had days where there were none, and days where there were only two, and it's weird to see how it affects the morale and the mentality of people.
Right.
Because like that one day we had 27 gigs, everybody was pissed off, man. Everybody was mad, and I personally didn't care because I didn't have phone calls anyway. So I was like, whatever. I'll just go in my room and read,
Right.
and but there were guys here that were genuinely pissed. But those guys were pretty much the ones that were causing the issue. Because when I
So
first got here for the first 2 weeks,
yeah.
there were some guys here you could tell were just going through the motions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you knew as soon as they got out they were going to be using again.
Damn.
But
That's right.
once they left, the community was good to go, man.
I got you. And what were you saying that other people's demerits accumulate and affect everyone, or is they only affect you? Like,
Oh no, it's for the whole group.
right, right. So you're all basically encouraging everyone else to not fuck up either. You're like, hey, make your
Yeah,
goddamn bed. I want to be able to use the phone. You know what I mean? No,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
actually a good system. And as fucked up as it sounds, and as shitty as it is to say, when people, adults, get into bad behavioral patterns, you do got to treat them like kids. You got to treat them like
yeah.
kids, and like do your chores, and you can watch TV. Like, because guess what? If in real life you don't do your chores, whatever that is for you, you don't get the fucking benefits that other people get. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you don't stay on top of your shit, you lose control. Your life falls apart. Your grass grows too long. Whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. So like one thing they're really big on here is mirrors. So the way
Mirrors.
the rooms are set up
Oh,
is
okay.
mirrors,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mirrors on the wall.
yeah, yeah.
So like the way the rooms are set up is there's quads. So there's two rooms side by side, and each room has two people in it. It's got a shared bathroom, a shared shower, and then at the back of the room there's a sink and a mirror. And the mirrors they're very, very touchy on. Like they'll come in and look, and if there's a speck on the mirror, that's a gig. And everybody, like when I first got here, everybody's like, man, why they be such bitches about the mirror? And when I finally got to the bottom of it, I was like, dude, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. What
We're
is
all
it?
addicts, and we didn't want to look at ourselves in the mirror. So now when
Understood.
they want when we look in the mirror, they want us to see nothing but us. No obstruction, no nothing, just us.
Yeah. Not even a smudge.
That's exactly it. And the other thing is too, like the structure here is very, very structured. Like when I was here, so the last 5 weeks I was here, I was on kitchen crew. So I got up at 5:30 every morning, and 5:30 is kitchen crew. Wake up for everybody else is 6:30. Breakfast is 6:45 to 7:30, and then we got cleanup, and then from 8 o'clock to 8:45 is morning spirituality class. 9 to 10 is another class. 10 to 10:30 is med call for everybody to get their medicine and stuff, get their temperature taken. 10:30 to 11:45 is small group, and that's where there's 4 or 5 counselors here, and they have their own caseload, and everybody, it's just a small group. You get together and you talk about, they come up with a topic, or we talk about what's been going on, what's bothering us, check in, so to speak. And then lunch is from 12 to 1. And then after that, from 1:15 to 2:15, there's a class. 2:30 to 4:30 is either work detail or rec, depending on the day. And then there's dinner, and then another class, and then either an AA meeting or CR, Celebrate Recovery meeting, or NA meeting, or Overcomers, whatever. So the day is very long and it's very
Right.
structured.
Right.
And it serves a purpose because as addicts, we didn't have any structure. We did whatever the hell we wanted to.
Right.
And that's not conducive to a healthy life. So the people, and you can see it, you can see the people here who genuinely want to be here, genuinely want to get better. And you see guys that are here, there's guys that have been here 3 4 times, and it's just they've fallen through, they didn't quite make the breakthroughs they needed to, and they went back out and relapsed. You got guys, like I said, who are here, just they're mandated by court, so they're here going through the motions.
Right.
And those guys really are poison to the group because they just bring the morale down. They're walking around like, man, as soon as we get happy, they want to fuck it up and make it bad for us. I'm like, no, dude. Well, first of all, you had a choice not to come here. If you weren't a fucking addict, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
So stop your bitching.
Yeah.
And now you're here, and these people here are trying to help you and trying to get you better.
Right.
And all you can do is bitch about this because you fucked up and you can't watch TV tonight.
Yeah.
Like, you're still a child. Stop being a child and be a damn grown up and accept responsibility for what you did and do what you need to do to get right.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, I feel like I feel like there's always going to be those people, and we could sit here all night and try to break down what it is. I feel like some people are just damaged from childhood, and not that damage is irreversible with some people, but sometimes if you're raised in hell and it's all you've ever known, and crime and drugs and this and that is all you have ever known, it's hard to make a rose bloom out of that. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
It has happened. It's happened thousands of times, millions of times probably. But it's just a shame when you have somebody that's so fucking stuck like that. And, maybe it is their third or fourth time there. But that mandated shit, I could see why they're like, yeah, fuck this. I don't want to do this. And trust me, I remember being a teenager, me and my buddy Jiggy, shout out to Justin Klein. We got popped when we were teenagers for drinking, picked up by the cops, taken home. I had to go to the hospital. He didn't. But needless to say, we had to take alcohol awareness classes. I think we were about 15, 16 years old, but we would leave those classes and go drink. You know what I mean? Like we'd leave those. Concept. Yeah, we were 16 years old and we were retarded. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But so I could definitely relate to those guys. It don't make it right, but it's fucked up how it screws up everybody else's shit.
Yeah, and I mean, and I don't say that to pass judgment on them because everybody has their own time. Everybody has their own space. Luckily, I didn't hit rock bottom. I could have, but the clincher for me was, I'm on my third wife now, and we were talking, and before I finally decided to or before we finally decided to do this, she told me, she was like, this isn't going to work, and I was never physically or mentally abusive to her. She would say I always treated her kindly, I always treated her with respect, I always took care of her, but she couldn't stand watching me kill myself slowly because she loved me.
Sure.
And she was like, if you don't get this fixed, then I can't stay with you. And it was like, okay, this is something that I need to do, and I need to get better, because even when I was high on life, like when I was in the army back in Germany and leading troops and was gung-ho and feeling awesome, I still had all this pain and shit built up inside of me that would cause me to drink.
Right.
And, now I've handled it, and I am 180 degrees different from the person I was when I came in here. And it feels good, dude. I mean, it really does. And I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't know what tomorrow brings, but the most important thing is I'm not sweating tomorrow.
Right.
I've had peace that,
that's
because
huge.
we recently sold my house, which was another freaking awesome thing. It was great to look at my bank account and see the balance of $68,000.
Right.
So
it's a little
that
makes tomorrow a lot easier too. You know what I mean? Just knowing that that's there. It ain't life changing, but it's a nice little safety net, dude.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah.
But like my wife, the first visitation I had, my wife came here to visit me, and she told me later she wasn't going to tell me at first, but she saw just my demeanor and how it was, and she was like, so I don't know how much I told you about my house before, but like I'd had flooding issues for the longest time. and I bought it from a company who had refurbished it, so there was no seller's disclosure that there was flooding.
Oh, I
So
see.
I signed the paperwork Friday and went to the house Saturday, and the garage and basement were flooded,
Oh,
and
fucking fuck.
I was just stuck, man. So I must have vacuumed out at least 3,000 gallons of water
God.
over the 3 years that I lived there,
Wow.
and so we finally got a French drain put in the driveway, and that stopped the flooding to the garage. And I thought everything was good, but she said 1 hour after we had signed the contract for the buyers, the basement flooded again.
Motherfuck.
And she told me that, and I like kind of looked down, and she was like, "It's okay." I was like, "No, no, no, I'm fine. I'm just processing it."
Right,
And
right,
I was
right,
like,
right.
"All right, whatever. I can't get pissed off that it flooded because that's not going to make it unflood." So
It's
I'm like,
not.
"All right, well, what do we have to do?" And it all worked out. We signed a contract with the buyers. They still wanted the house, so they bought the house, and we're going to pay to have someone come out and do the water retention, and then replace the drywall on the floor, and that's going to be about anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000. But
Right.
that's 12 to 15 that comes out of that 68
It's
that I got for
there.
selling the
It's
house.
there, man. At least it's fucking there, dude. Like
Yeah.
that would be a real shitty loan to take out. That would be a real
Yep.
shitty fucking anything, man. As somebody who's like close to being like out of debt. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a ton of debt, but
Hmm.
just knowing that I've got a little bit of money in the bank, I don't have a ton of debt. I'm working and making money. It puts this much more peace of mind, and
Yeah, it really does.
keeps you from fucking up, man. Keeps you from But I know you had mentioned earlier, and certainly you don't have to divulge too much if you're uncomfortable, but you were saying that like you kind of got to some of the root causes. Like, do you know kind of for you what that was?
Oh
Like
yeah,
like some.
absolutely. The two major ones. So I was molested as a kid.
Okay.
Um, and it was the guy that lived across from me. He was the same age as my brother. My brother's 12 years older than me. So when I was 6, my brother had already joined the army, and he
Okay.
left off and was gone.
Right.
So I was essentially raised as an only kid. My dad wasn't in the picture, and so it was just me and my mom. Dude, I was the biggest pussy in the world growing up, because I'd get beat up and run home crying, and my mom would be like, "Oh, it's okay, baby," but
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't have any male figure
Right.
to get up and get back out there, boy.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
have none of that.
Sure.
Um, so this guy that lived across the street from me was the same age as my brother, and so naturally it was an adult male figure,
Right. Yeah. So
and
you looked up to him to a degree, or clung
yep,
to him a little bit as sort of like
yep,
that role model.
yeah. So I would go over there and like he'd throw the football with me or whatever, or let me tinker around in his garage, and it still fucks with me a little bit to this day because anytime I'm in a garage, when I get the smell of the fluids and
Sure,
oil and
dude.
transmission and all that,
Fuck yeah,
it
dude.
kind of clicks in my head.
Yeah, dude.
But and this went on for a decent period of time, and and I didn't know this until I got here either. So there's a difference between like molestation and then molestation with penetration,
Sure,
and
sure,
like
sure, sure.
I was penetrated, and
Understood.
that really will fuck somebody up, especially if it's before they're 13 years old.
Of
Like that
course.
really puts shit in their head.
Of course.
But at the same time, like I never really had that like that wasn't really something that really pulled at me and hurt me, because like I accepted it. I knew I was like, yeah, whatever, it happened. It wasn't my fault. It was nothing I could do about it. I didn't tell my mom until after I graduated basic training,
Wow.
and shit.
Wow.
So nobody had any idea from 12 or 13 until I was 20 years old.
Okay.
Nobody had any idea.
Wow.
So that was one thing, and it just like I said, that wasn't really the big one. That was just something that helped, fuck me up for a little bit.
Yeah,
But I
something
had
that
let go of
definitely.
it a long time ago.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's certainly something that fucks kids up, and we don't. I mean, we don't really have a full understanding of how each kid
Yeah,
is affected by that.
no,
Certainly, I'm trying to think of the words I'm trying to come up with here. It's got to be bizarre. I mean, it has to be. I'm obviously speaking to somebody who went through it, but I mean, it has to be almost a surreal thing where if something's happening to you, you don't quite get
hmm
it, but you kind of know it's wrong, but you don't know. So
yeah,
it's certainly obviously very invasive and intrusive, and violates privacy. But at 6,
Hmm.
7-ish years old, you said you were. It's got to be completely, totally puzzling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't 6 when it happened. I think I was
Okay. Little.
between 10 and 12, like
Okay.
that ballpark.
Okay. I got you.
And the weirdest thing is, like, what I remember the most is when he told me, he's like, hey, let's go upstairs, and then he said, take off your clothes. Then he took his off. I just remember looking at me and looking at him
Right.
and being like, whoa, you're way different than I am.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. 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 Right.
what is that? Just, because like I hadn't been through puberty yet, and
Sure.
he was
Sure. Sure.
a
The man.
19-year-old man. So I'm like, wow, this is weird.
Wow.
And then he did the classic, don't tell anybody because you'll get in trouble. And it
Right.
worked because I believed him and I didn't tell
Wow.
anybody.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, it was really fucked up. It's something that it, like I said, it didn't really cause me to do anything that I mean, consciously anyway. I didn't bury it down. I'm open about it. I don't care. One thing being here was just kind of being reaffirmed. Wasn't your fault. Not that I ever thought it was, but one thing that I guess I did struggle with is that I kept going back over there
Right.
because even though this was happening, he was still playing football with me,
Right.
or letting me play with toys and all this stuff. So I think that kind of messed with my head a little
Of
bit. But
course.
getting to the root cause of that helped. But the major issue was just my dad. My dad splitting when I was 2. He would send me a birthday card, a Christmas card, and he would send a plane ticket for me to go see him 1 week out of the year. And I
And
held on to
did you do
just
that? Would you
anger.
go? Would you go when he sent the tickets?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went and saw him from like 10 years old until 15 or 16.
I got you.
And I had a great time, man. I'd go down and see him for a week. And, like when he was living in Virginia, he'd take me to all these places, Busch Gardens. He'd take me crabbing in the chest. We were son. But then when I'd go home, it was, he was just a shadow. And two things helped. The first one was getting back in touch with my half brother Chance. So Chance was from John, my father's first marriage, and it was a woman he had met in England while he was in the military. They got married and they had 2 kids. Well, Kay was from Australia, so when they got separated, Kay moved back to Australia and took Chance with her.
Oh, I see.
And so when I got to go to Adelaide last year to train train guys down there on the SATCOM terminals, it ended up that the hotel I was staying at was like 4 miles away from Chance's house.
Wow.
So we touched base, whatever, and I went to go see him. And we were sitting there talking one day, and I actually went over to his house to cook dinner for him, and I met his wife, and I met his 3 kids. So I met my nieces and nephews, and they were just wonderful, wonderful family. And we sat there talking, and I asked him, I was like, was it just me, and he was like, I just remember him saying, "It's like, nah, mate, when just you? He was a shit father from the beginning." And I
That's
was
fun.
like,
It's hilarious. Yeah, obviously he's got the accent.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And he was like, yeah, he left us, did the same thing, just wasn't ever present.
Wow.
And and my father had my wife had sent him a message on Facebook Messenger saying, hey, Derek's in this treatment facility, and he wants to get your address, whatever. And my dad wrote back, I'm glad he's doing that, whatever. And then he said, the problem is I was a father who never should have been. And I was like, okay, I get it, but that's not an excuse. Like,
No,
you were.
dude.
So,
No, dude. Yeah, dude.
but
I get it.
I wrote him. I wrote him a 39-page letter,
Holy
and
shit.
yeah, mailed it to him. And it's pretty much like my whole life story and everything that I went through, that I could recall, or that was, because after I sent it, I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell him about this. But the last 3 pages was pretty much like, you know, I'm sorry that, whatever you went through with your father, because I don't know because you never told me about it, but
Right.
I know that you and your father didn't have a good relationship. I knew that from my mom. She told me about it. And, just told, look, I'm sorry for whatever you went through. I'm sorry for the pain you felt moving from family to family to family. I'm sorry for any guilt you had about not being a good father. I forgive you. I'm right with God. I hope you are too, because we didn't have much of an earthly relationship. But if what they say is right, we can be father and son for eternity in heaven. And I hope that's the case. And I love you. And he wrote me a small letter saying that he got it and he's going to sit down and read it. And he just, wanted me to know that he had got it and all that. And he's been a little bit more active on, like my Facebook and stuff. When I put pictures of me being here, he'll comment and say, I hope you're doing good and all that. But I think that was the biggest thing that I was able to shed off, so to speak. And it really brought me peace is because when I was baptized, the Bill King, who's the COO here, and I'll get to him in a second, but
Sure.
he asked, why are you getting baptized? And I was like, well, I have love for Jesus Christ, and I want the world to know. And I didn't have any relationship with my earthly father, but now I have one with my heavenly Father.
That's pretty
And
cool.
yeah, and it was just crazy, man. When I came out of the water, I literally came out of the water a completely different person.
That's
My
wild, man.
perspective on everything changed. I'm not any better. I'm still an addict. I'm still, I've still done horrible things in my past, and I'll probably do horrible things again in the future. But I'm at peace, and the main thing is I'm not sweating shit that doesn't need to be sweated, and even catastrophic stuff. Because when I came back, so they give you random drug tests here, and they gave me my first one when I got here, and obviously it was hot for marijuana.
Right.
Well, then somehow my middle and last ones came up negative, which I knew right away was suspect because like I had smoked chronically for 6 years, and I'm
Right.
like, there's no way that it's not in my urine after 30 days.
Yeah, you think
Like,
like even a good 30-day, you don't think you could have cleaned
no,
out, and it was clear.
hell
It was clear. You said though, like
yeah,
according
but
to the
yeah,
test.
they came back negative,
Wow.
and well, those just the dipstick tests.
Right. Right. Right.
And so then I go home for this weekend to come back and start my servant leadership. And when I get here to start my servant leadership, they give me a drug test, and the guy looks at me and goes, "Derek, did you smoke?" And I was like, "No,
Yeah. Right.
no."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, it came up positive." I'm like, "No, no, no, no." I said, "Look," and
Right.
I was stressing, but at the same time, I said a prayer, and I was like, "God, whatever your will is, if it's for me to stay here, if it's for me to go home, just give me the strength and the courage and wisdom to do what's right."
Right.
And when we had a lot of discussions, so I took two that came up positive, and then the third one came up negative. And then the next morning they
It's like
wanted me
these
to take
fucking
another one.
COVID tests. God damn it.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so weird.
Fucking blind bags.
I know, but so I took one the next morning, and it came up positive again, and I was like, look, this is where I fucked up. When I got that first negative test, I should have had you guys send it to a lab to get the levels checked to see what the THC levels were.
Right. Right.
That
Right.
way, if another positive comes up, you could look and have a baseline. I said, I didn't do that. I said, but I swear on everything I have, I did not smoke. And I'm so adamant on that even if you were to say, hey, Derek, just tell us you smoked and we'll work it out and you can stay here, I'd pack my shit and leave.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
didn't do it.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't.
Right. Right. You know what though? How often, if ever, would you eat? Would you eat any edibles or anything like that?
I have before,
But
but
not
like
recently.
not really. No,
The
no,
only
not
reason I ask
recently.
that is because like I've just heard, and this is total bro science, but when you lose weight, a lot of the stuff stored in your fat gets released. So I mean, there's a chance that in the process of losing weight,
Yep.
you were releasing some fucking THC, I guess, possibly, or pissing it out or whatever. But that's total bro science, and I
Yeah,
don't know
and
anything.
that's no, it's very valid science. Another thing that happened is I had spent this whole weekend moving because we were moving from my house to the new apartment,
Right.
and there was all day Sunday and Monday moving, and I mean I lost at least 8 pounds in water weight doing
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
And we did a little bit of our own research and reading, and that's exactly what can happen because marijuana gets stored in your fat cells, and you have fat cells everywhere. You got fat cells in your organs, you got
Oh,
fat cells
everywhere.
on your body, everywhere. So what happens is, you get that rapid weight loss, and you get that kind of flush, and then everything is kind of flushed out but that's just the topical stuff, the
Right.
stuff that's on top of the fat, so to speak.
Right.
Well, then as your body starts to process more, it starts to release more. Um, so what they agreed to do, and this was very gracious because they could have just been like, all right, well, positive, pack shit and go home. They talked and they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We've already sent this test to the lab, so this one will get measured, and we're going to test you once a week to make sure that there's a constant drop.
Decline. Right. Right. Right.
And if one comes up, right, and come positive, then you're gone. I'm like, dude, that's fine, because I honestly, I left here Friday morning to go. I left Friday morning. We ate dinner at Academia Brewery in Athens on Friday night. I didn't have the slightest desire to get beer. And I was in a fucking brewery.
Right, right, right.
Like I had no desire to get it. I had no desire to smoke, and none. So, and that's what really crushed me when I came back. I was like, man, because I was really looking forward to doing this servant leadership thing. And I was so excited. And when I came back, I'm like, no, man, I know I didn't smoke.
Right,
And I tried to think, like, I wasn't around anybody because we were literally moving all weekend. It
right,
was me and
right.
my wife. That was it. So I was really bummed, man. But it ended up working out. And that's another thing that I think people overanalyze. And I see a bunch of posts that are like, oh, you talk about God's will. Was it God's will for so and so to die of cancer or so and so? But I was like, one, I don't know the answer to that question, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to think on God's level, and whatever, like we discussed earlier, whatever our opinion of God is, that dude in the sky, if he created all this, what the fuck makes you think you can possibly even come close to understanding his logic?
It's
You know,
absurd. It's an absurd notion to think that you could
right?
understand the answers to the universe or why the Earth spins the way that it does and how far away the fucking sun is. Give me a
Right.
break. Give me a
We
break.
can't. I mean, we can't figure out how to fix our own issues here. Half the people on the planet can't figure out how to program a fucking phone. And you're gonna say you're gonna attempt to understand whatever omnipotent power is out there. It's like, no, dude, just stop trying to explain it. Stop trying to reason. And I'm not saying just give up on everything and throw your hands up, but
Sure.
just chill. Just
Have
work
well
on you.
have
Just
you
work.
ever heard of like gratitude rocks? Like, you put a rock in your pocket and like every time you pull
Hmm.
it out, it's like, you kind of go around the horn and talk about all the things you're grateful for in your life and gratitude.
Yeah.
And it's literally fucking nothing. It's just a reminder in your pocket to be grateful. So for you, if the thing that keeps you on the path is what you call God, Jesus Christ, or aliens, it works for
Mhm.
you. So who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? If that's the thing that keeps you on the straight and narrow,
Yeah.
then who gives a fuck if so like I said, let's just say you worship Satan and Satan is your light, your guiding light. Okay, so am I going to ask the same question? Satan killed those people of cancer, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
let people do their thing, man. Just live and let live, man.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, and it all circles back to the religious aspect of it. Is I'm going to do me, but I'm also not going to judge or demean someone else who doesn't. As long as and even a murderer or rapist, I'm not going to judge them. I think it's horrible what they do, but it's not my place to dictate what they whether they should be here or not. None of that stuff. It's just they got. There's actually a really good movie that touches on that. It's called The Shack,
The Shack.
and yeah, and the dude that played in Avatar and in
Oh,
the
okay.
Terminator Genesis movies, I can't remember his name,
Yeah, I can't
but
either.
he's in it, and it's actually a really good movie. It's because I know a lot of Christian movies are kind of poorly shot and really bad acting, but this is a Hollywood movie, and so what it is this guy he goes on a camping trip and his daughter gets kidnapped, and she ends up being murdered, and they can't find the body, whatever, and he goes to the shack, which is the shack where she was at, and he ends up running into the physical embodiment of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit,
Oh, okay.
and it just takes him through this whole thing about forgiveness and about this, and it's actually a very good movie. But it always touches back to that thing. It's like stop trying to figure out God's will, and you know some people are guilty of that, saying, "Oh, it's just God's will. It's God's will." It's like, well, yeah, but you still have to do stuff. Like you still have to eat healthy. You still have to be nice to each other. You still have to use your blinkers and stuff. And be cognizant of your life.
You're right.
But once we start going past the basics of what we can do for ourselves and trying to get to what we can do for other, to dictate to other people or to judge other people, like that's when the whole message gets just diluted, man.
And,
It just
and did you say there's a
it's really
big
simple.
what are those the big six you said? Is it like a big six? Is that what you said? That
Big
we can
six.
what did you just say? Something that we can do for ourselves? It sounded like
Oh yeah, it just I mean like so when people say, "Oh, it's just God's will," well, on top of that, you also you still have to do the basics for
Oh, sure,
yourself.
sure, 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 sure.
You got to
That's
brush your teeth and take
right.
a shower and go to work on time, and
That's like the
be kind.
it's like the secret that people talk about where like, you make a vision board of shit that you want to achieve or things that you want to come to you and the universe just makes it happen. No, that's not how it works. You post that up as a daily reminder of what you want, but you still got to get on the horn every morning. Like for me for example, once we're done here, we're not done here. I gotta edit this. I gotta make a graphic. I gotta sync the audio and the video and post it to YouTube. And if I want this to become something, I have to do the work. This isn't just
Yeah,
like everybody's gonna fucking come in and swoop in and help me, and all of a sudden I'm gonna have an engineer to do all the work. And
yeah,
so you have to do the work to get what you want in life. But it helps to have I guess faith and know exactly what that thing is that you want.
yeah, yeah. And that is. I mean, that's exactly it. Just like you said, you've got to do the work. And it's funny too because like we've watched a bunch of really good movies since we've been here. There's another one called Greater, and it's about this kid Brandon Burlsworth, and he was a kid that was walk on. He was a walk on at Arkansas Razorbacks, and he ended up getting signed by the Colts, but he died in a car wreck before he
Mm.
could play. And they actually have they got a thing called the Burlsworth Award that they give out once a year for the best walk on. His locker is still encased in glass at the University
Wow.
of Arkansas,
Wow.
and the movie, check it out if you get a chance because it's a really good flick, and it's just about him. And obviously it's Christian based, but it's just about him in his dedication and his drive and
Sure.
his morals and not wavering on that. And it just goes to show, like like exactly what you said. You still got to do the work.
Have
It's
to.
not going to be done for you. And but the coach said one thing he said that really got to me in the movie was, let's say one guy gets $10,000 handed to him, and another guy has to work and work and work for it. Now, at the end, they both got $10,000, but who do you think is the better person at the end of it? The person that had to work for it, or the person that was just giving?
Of course. Of
You know,
course. Yeah. And I mean that's sort of the attitude that I guess a lot of the general public has had about like born rich kids. You know what I mean? It's like
mm-hmm.
we tend to frown upon children who are born rich because they have no fucking idea,
Yeah,
what it's like to, work a 9 to 5 of any kind.
yeah, to not have to do for yourself,
Sure,
and
but no,
you
I get
you
it. Yeah, the person who earned it always appreciates it more than the person that it was given to. Always, always. I
yeah.
also definitely wanted to ask you because uh, I don't know if it was a private discussion we were having or something you put on Facebook, but you were saying that you obviously still have bad days. Talk to me about like what it feels like on a bad day, what goes through your head, and then how you get back on track.
Well, to say bad days, I guess is kind of a misnomer because it's not really a bad day. I'm not
Or
I'm not
harder days, tougher days. You know,
yeah.
you use whatever word you want, but I guess the days that tend to be a little harder.
Yeah, it's just since I've been here, honestly, I haven't really had any bad days, or even really any bad emotional struggles. The only thing that really was trying on me is, like I said, the first 2 days I was back with the whole piss test stuff,
Sure.
and I was stressed, but I was still at peace because I knew whatever happened, I was going to be fine.
Right.
My life isn't in chaos at home. So if they kicked me out of this program, then I would just go home to my life. I'd go back to work, and my wife still loves me, is my support network. I've still got an awesome son, and everything would have been fine. I would have just lost something that I wanted to do because I legitimately want to do this servant leadership. Because so the servant leaders are kind of in between the clients and the staff. There are people who have already went through the 6 week intensive program, and they stay on for 4 months to help out. We help minister to the guys, just listen to them, give them somebody to talk to. Obviously, we do the inspections, and for me, like I'm on kitchen for pretty much the whole time I'm here, so it's my kitchen now for the 4 months I'm here.
Awesome, dude.
Um, and it's just helping out other people, and yesterday was a prime example. We got with the servant leader office, and the phones are right out in front of the office, so the guys are supposed to knock on the window and say, "Hey, I'm getting on the phone," and we write down when they got on the phone, when they got off, and yesterday because they were gigged out. Nobody was on the phones but this one guy, and he had got permission from the counselor because it was his ex-fiance's birthday. So
Okay.
he called her and talked to her, and when he got off the phone, he was just weeping. And I told him, I was like, man, come here, sit down. And we talked, and he just let go, and he was like happy and sad at the same time. It was so
Sure.
good to talk to her, and and I just sat there and talked to him for like 10, 15 minutes, and he got up and left. He goes, dude, thank you so much. And it's like, I'm not a counselor, but just letting someone know that, one, there's nothing you can tell me that I ain't heard or done before. And I told him he's a younger kid. I was like, dude, I've been in addiction longer than you've been alive.
Yeah,
So
and there's also nothing that they're going to say to you that you're going to judge them for either. And that's
no, it's
something that they
nothing,
need to understand,
nothing at all.
That's good, man.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good on you for doing that.
he just he just felt better afterwards. I didn't fix his problem, but I just let him know, one, maybe it's not as bad as you think, because she's talking to you on the phone. She said she missed you, so maybe it's not as bad as you think. And B, it's a small thing now, and just get it out and talk
Right.
about it. And
And yeah,
that's
and it's okay. Like like
yeah.
as men, we think it's not okay to cry sometimes. And I never fucking feel better than when I let it out, man. You
Oh my
never
God,
feel,
yes, dude.
even if you cry like a bitch and you're shuddering, you're crying so much. It feels good once you're done. And like you said, man, even if even talking about this now, talking to you right now is reminding me why I started this show. Like I started this show, Struggling with Sozio, to talk to people about shit they don't want to talk about. Like I
Yeah,
wanted to talk to people about the hard things. Obviously, have some laughs along the way if we can.
yeah,
But I want to hear about the hardest fucking shit in your life so that other people can hear, hey, maybe my life's not so bad, even though this week's going shitty. Or I'm struggling with addiction. What can I do, Derek? How did you do it? And so this is excellent, man. This is really good, and a good reminder for me as well why we're doing this, because
yeah. And
everybody's
that's
got
the
to
thing
do it.
is,
I'm sorry.
right. And there's no, that's fine. That's the thing. Like, so the day I got baptized, I actually got baptized with this other dude, Daniel, and now we're baptist brothers. This dude was a legit gang affiliated Crip member
Damn.
who like used to move kilos of methamphetamine.
Woo.
He's done a total of 70 months in level 5 prison, and to see who he was when he got here to who he is now, and he's gone right now, but he's coming back Saturday to be a servant leader,
Wow.
and just to see that change. And we talk all the time, and I'm like, man, there's no compassion on the streets. They teach you that compassion is weak, and you got to be strong, and you got to be all that. You don't know how many times I've had where people say, dude, there's nothing stronger than admitting you can't handle it. There's nothing stronger than saying, dude, I got a problem and I can't handle it on my own. I need help. But
Yes.
people get this stigma that asking for help makes you weak, and you oh, I could do it on my own. Yeah, I mean that worked out great for you until it doesn't, and then you're fucking dead.
Right, right, right. Or
So
you've gotten yourself so out of whack with like whatever you're self-medicating with, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's not even necessarily hard drugs, you know what I mean? Maybe you think that you're dealing with your problem the right way and you're just not, man. That's
yeah,
wild, man. It's definitely great to hear, and I also just want to say, like, I don't know if you've heard it from a lot of people, possibly your wife and maybe a few others. I would like to say I'm proud of you, dude, because this is huge. I'm really
thank you.
proud of what you're doing. I'm proud that you are not just sober, but you're giving back to this facility and community that you're a part of. Um, I'm heinously sorry about the difficulties that we spoke about a little bit ago, that some of your root causes, but I'm also proud of you in the sense that that could have went south too. You could have
Yeah,
molested people the way you were molested, and I mean
yeah,
sometimes that happens, and good on you for not doing that, and also trying to make amends with your old man too, despite him not being around.
yeah. It did. You know what? The thing, I've seen that, and there's obviously documented evidence of it. People who were molested tend to molest others, or not tend to, but the
Ken,
majority of the people who molest were molested before, I
there you
guess is the
go.
best way to put it. Thankfully, I've never had that desire, never had that urge or thought. And then the thing with my dad, what it did for me was it made me be a better father to Dexter, to my son,
That's awesome.
because I wanted him to feel the way that I felt, you know. And then with the guys here that I talk to, you know, I've had disputes with people here and talked to them and worked it out and been like, look, dude, you can believe this or not, but I love you. And I do not want you to feel the way I felt because I know how much it sucks. I don't want you to suffer another day of your life under addiction. You don't have to,
Right.
you know, and if I can help you, I will. And it's just, I guess it's just the way I'm wired, man. I don't want, and it's cost me, it's bit me in the ass more times than I can count, trying to help other people out who would just take advantage of me. But I'd rather do that and be taken advantage of 10 times and be able to help one person. I'm cool with that. I can take the stress. I can take the weight. It's okay. But if I can just help one person, man, and have them say, thank you. I'm glad. You know, you did a lot. You know, anything. Not for my own grandization. I don't need it, but just to make sure that no one else has to feel that way. Because it's
I
fucking
just seen
shitty.
somebody.
It's miserable.
I just saw a person lurking in the background there. Nobody's trying to get your attention there, are they? Through your door? I just. Oh, okay.
No, see,
Uh,
the weird thing is my room is right behind the servant leader office.
okay.
Um, so they were probably just checking on me because
Yeah,
I've been
I just
feeling
saw
kind
him
of
like
sick
looking
today.
in, and I think they pulled the door closed so they weren't bugging us or whatever. I was just making sure nobody was. Last thing I wanted to do is get you one of them gig marks. You know what I mean? And make.
No,
you,
no, I'm good to
Lord
go.
knows we probably got enough of those up here, dude. You know what I mean? We probably got a couple up in our
Oh
hair.
my god, I got a couple coast to coasters.
Fucking stupid shit we did as kids, I tell you. But
Yep,
well,
craziness.
before we get out of here, man, is there any closing words you'd like to maybe say to somebody that's right on the edge right now, knowing that they need the help that you have sought out recently?
I'm no better than anybody else. I did no magic act. I'm not, you know, there's people out there stronger than me. There's people that are smarter than me. Uh, but I was able to do this. The first thing is if you feel like if you've ever gotten fucked up and sat there and been like, man, this is a problem, then that's the first thing. You recognize that there is one, but you just got to submit. I mean, whatever it is, you know. And if you go to an AA meeting and you don't like it, go to another one. Find another one. You know, you're not
Yep.
gonna. You didn't find the love of your life the first time you touched a girl, so
Nope.
you know but you and it everything works for different people. I mean, like I said, this worked for me, but there's no blanket policy. It works for everybody else, but don't give up, man, because no matter how much you hate yourself, I have hated tattooed on my chest, dude. Like, no matter how much you hate yourself, someone out there loves you and someone out there wants you to be the best you that you can be. And if you just got to hold on to that and use that. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be rough, but it's so worth it, man. I'm telling you, I can't believe how good I feel to the point where I'm almost pissed off that it took me this long to get here.
At least
But
you're
I'm
there,
glad
man.
it did.
Yeah, dude. At least you're there, dude. I'm thrilled about it. And like I said, man, you look healthy. You look great. I'm
Thank you.
sincerely happy to see that you're on a better path and on the righteous path, man. This is great, dude.
And there's actually one more thing I did
Sure.
want to say
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the you know the people that will the people that you're worried about impressing, because coming up in the rest, there's all these people that I wanted to impress or people that I used to watch that I really wanted them to like me, and I've always been a very personable person. Where if someone like me, I want to know why. I'm like, you know, did I do something wrong? But I've just realized lately it doesn't matter. Not everybody's going to like you, and that's fine.
Right.
But the one thing that I really noticed is a lot of the people in wrestling that I was so bent on impressing or being cool for, when when I was going through hard shit, we found they weren't paying my bills. They weren't sleeping in bed next to me. They weren't, you know, every once in a while they would call, hey, you doing okay? But there's a select few that would really reach out and really want to talk and try to help me out. So I just let go of that. Why am I trying to impress them when they don't care about me
Right.
truly? Dude, you, in the two times that we've talked on this and just keeping in touch on messages and all that, you've been more compassionate than a lot of the other people that I came up with in wrestling. And you know, outside of Facebook and meeting you once, I really didn't know you from Adam. So I got to say thank you for that
You
because
got it, dude.
that's really awesome and genuine. But But just for people out there who may be struggling, what's so and so going to think? Fuck so and so, because they're not paying your bills, they're not fluffing your pillow, and they're not going to be there when you're at rock bottom and you need to get out. And there's always a way out, always a way out. And if you've done it and messed up, then do it again. You know, fail. There's not wins and losses. There's wins and lessons. And failing doesn't become failure unless you quit.
Right.
You're going to fail more times than you can possibly count, but if you keep going, you'll be all right.
Right, and also too, like you said at the beginning, abstinence doesn't necessarily equal sobriety. You know, it's also about doing the work while you're sober. You know, it's not just you know trying to handle the same problems that you were handling before sober without any sort of new mechanisms to deal with it. Isn't really it's just a recipe for disaster. But yeah, man, like I said, thanks again for joining me again tonight. If you are just joining us at the tail end here, definitely check out episode 33, where I spoke to Mr. Derek Thorne here for the first time, and he was thinking about getting into a rehab program. And then listen to this one, episode 41, where obviously we've just recapped his experience in that facility, in that program, and how fantastic he's doing. Derek, thanks for joining me tonight. For those that tuned in, I sincerely appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Check out my man Dany Only on the socials, at Dany Only on pretty much everything, right?
That's it.
Right on. I'm Nico Sozio on Twitter, Mr. underscore Sozio on Instagram, and check out Struggling with Sozio on Podbean. I also have a YouTube channel, and I try to bang out these episodes as often as I can. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great time, and if not, as always, go fuck yourself.